Hey everybody, this is Nate Leber at Leber Design and Print. I'm still at the shop today, or again, I should say, and I'm here today with my buddy Remo, who is an awesome designer, and I think he has some valuable insight from a little bit different industry that is closely tied to ours, and I want to talk to him and see what insights he has for us. So what's up, Remo?
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm Remo. I run a small graphic design studio called Remo Remo Design with my wife, and we, work with just a handful of really close freelance designers spread out throughout the states. And what we primarily do is we help launch businesses. We also help evolve existing brands, and then the really fun part is we work on their communication pieces and figure out ways that can really bring their brand to life and engage with their customers. So like either like marketing campaigns or like one-off print materials or doing merch for their team or things of that nature, but all around the idea of bringing a brand to life.
Awesome. So tell us your background. How did you get to what's your career look like, and how did you get to where you are now?
Real short, I went to school for graphic design in Columbia College in Chicago, and I worked with a small studio for like 1 year, and we just did a lot of like undercover design for big companies, coming up with concepts. And from that, I got recruited to a big company called Doblin. And Doblin, with them, I did a lot of um, storyboarding and telling what the user journey is, and trying to communicate to a lot of people like how can we change that user journey into a bigger different experience by changing the company's offering, changing how they do their service, or what can they invest in to create a new concept. And for everybody, these are really abstract innovative ideas, so I had to visualize that. And that was very conceptual, high level consulting. And I was traveling quite a bit at that point. I may be based in Chicago, but I was living in Toronto or Louisville, Kentucky for 4 days a week. And then my wife, fiance at the time, or girlfriend at the time, was in Ohio. So I decided to get married, move to Ohio, to a small town called Lancaster, which I currently live and operate my studio in. And I, set up shop here, and now I'm, actually making things everywhere from the high level content, doing the vehicle wraps, and not just creating the brand identity and story. So yeah.
Awesome. Uh-oh, you're frozen. There we go. Good to go. So we are in the middle of this, I don't even know what it's called anymore, coronavirus pandemic, maybe. How has that, if whatever you want to share, how has that affected you? And or what are you changing or doing to combat it or
Yeah,
adjust to it?
yeah. It's really weird. So being in a small town, a majority of our work is, I like to say, like 50% of it is based in Chicago, and then we have 20% or 25% that is throughout the country, whether it's in like New York or in the West Coast. And then we have a small percentage that is Ohio based, and an even smaller percentage that's local. A lot of the local work we do are murals. And that's more of just like giving back to the community and having fun. And when you're painting, you don't really actually shake hands with people as much or interact with them face to face. And in being in a small studio where my graphic designers I work with are remote, my operations really hasn't changed. So as you can see, I'm still in my studio because no one is here. But as far as how has it affected my work, and half of our clients are, a good portion of those clients are really big corporations that work internationally, and for them, some of their projects get like pause on their like budgets on spending, but they are projects that are 2-3 months in the works. So we still continue, we still keep pushing on them, and we don't have to interact with them. But for our smaller businesses who are investing for the first time into design, that they may open up 2 to 3 centers. Like for them, we really feel that for them.
Yeah.
They either have to pause and suspend any sort of progress. And I don't know when. And for me, what that looks like is I have one consistent timeline, and then I have a bunch of like small projects that like are constantly getting pushed back or paused, and I don't know what's happening. So it's really hard to evaluate where
Yeah.
I'm at. I think if anything, I'm doing a lot of project management of like checking in and then them telling me, hey, let's postpone this to next week,
Yeah.
or really trying to give all my attention and time that I do have available now to my existing clients so that we can get those stuff done as fast as possible. Because for
Yeah.
them, they don't know where they're going to be like in a month from now. So they're trying their best to make as much progress. So it ends up balancing itself out.
Interesting. It probably does it force you to really push your level of flexibility?
Yeah, it does. And what's interesting is in this process, we've had a lot of small businesses who are or entrepreneurs who are coming to us and need help, where they're like, I was in the works of this. Now I kind of have time since I'm at home all the with my kids, and they may be in high school or whatever. And you're like, hey, can we start talking about this? So I've started having those conversations. And then some cases where we have existing relationships that kind of just kicked off, they're asking for like, they want to continue to keep operating. And we kind of see ourselves donating a little more service of our own, where we
Right.
might do more design or be more accommodating and do more rounds, or just give them more help than we normally would, because we know that like they are really dependent on whatever income they can have.
Right.
So one of our small businesses, they are a service where like they really need more leads constantly. So we're really helping them out on their marketing, and even considering like exchange of services in order for them to reach more clients, because
Okay.
they're worried that in a while they're not going to be able to get any.
Well, awesome. Sounds like you're definitely helping out then. So I've worked with you before, and I know how awesome it is to work with you. You're definitely, when I get an email from you, I'm definitely like, awesome. This is going to be one of those jobs that it's smooth. So
Oh, okay. I'm glad, because
when
I'm
we're,
my investment.
no, yeah, from my perspective, no, you're very easy to work with in comparison to certain groups that I
Okay.
work with. It's simple with you. When you look at vendors, or specifically when we're talking about garment decorators, but it can be pretty much any vendor with you. When you're looking at vendors, or you're trying to find help making a physical product for your customers, what are the things that you look for? What are the things that you value? What makes it a good fit for you?
Yeah. So being small, it's really important that the clients we serve are the right clients, and then the work we deliver is to the best representation of us. And we can't afford that, because our name and reputation is is affected like greatly by that work.
Right.
And what's wonderful about being small too is that not only we concept things, but we execute. And we find when we work with mid-sized to smaller businesses, they don't have the resources to execute it themselves, and they might go to something they find on Google, just like production, like t-shirt design, and they find some like company that just pushes them out and probably makes them in India and like doesn't care
Right.
at all. And then all of a sudden, all the work I did is like awful, and they're upset. But they don't blame them; they blame me,
Right.
right? Because it's I helped them with, like, from the company. They're like, we invested in design and we got really shitty stuff. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um, so I've since I've opened up shop, it's important for me that I've find vendors like yourself and really find them as partners of who can I rely on quality, and what can I do to make our relationship smooth and seamless, and put out the right quality work, really set those expectations. And so what has been helpful for me is to find someone that meets me halfway when it comes to executing, like to executing what we picture would be great. So
Mhm.
for example, if you take a shirt to a small shop that like they just, or not a small shop, but a shop that just cranks them out, they're not really thinking about the placement. They're like, oh, it goes in front, here it is. I think what's been really helpful for me and you is that, I tell you, like, I'll create a file and I'll say, here's the logo of like, here's what the shirt should look like placement wise. But I don't understand when it comes to different shirts, how that size, like how is that going to be affected? So
Right.
what's been really helpful for me is to expect some sort of consultation of like, hey, you're going to run into this issue when you get, if you want extra large and you want youth sizes. This is, we're going to need to make two different templates or two different, sizes so that they fit appropriately and they don't vary that much. Like that really helps me, especially when you have a design where it's like right here, like a badge, knowing the right placement. I really rely on you to consult and tell me, and I communicate to you, hey, this is where the area I want, but I don't know what's like best. Can you help me? And you provide me your recommendation, and I trust you to do that. So that sort of consultation of providing your experience, like when you provide your experience of placement, is really great. I think the other wonderful part, and also a necessity, and it comes with the industry, but it's sad to say you don't get all the time, is someone who's able to work with you with numbers,
Right.
and the response for it. Like, oh my gosh, like if they take forever, if they take a week, like, and like they also like sigh at you for like crunching that, like it's like, hey, I get it too. Like I have to play middleman, and like I have to
Right.
back and forth, and you help me too. Like, why don't you just shoot me your bottom, your budget, and you work with me, and you tell me, okay, here are the shirts, and this is what you're going to compromise, but you can hit that number. That sort of insight is so helpful, because I don't want to just hit the number. I want to know, like, okay, what am I compromising
Right.
to get that shirt made, and like, are they going to be happy? When you told me about totes, like, you're like, there's thousands of like options we can go with, but knowing that this is typically what they're used for and what you see, and like it's a one-off thing, like that's really helpful for me. So that sort of exchange of knowledge of, when you try to hit those numbers and this is what you're going to get for it, is something that people don't always do, that I always look for.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's probably, those are probably the two best things I look for when I try to find a new partner to produce something.
Awesome. I think that's super informative. So,
Yeah.
last question, or this is more of an opening than a question. Are you looking for more work? If you are, what you're trying to build, what are you looking for with new work? What are you trying to look for moving for in the future? Like who is a perfect client for you? And if so, how can someone contact you or reach out to you?
Okay, great. Yes, we are always looking for new work. I think right now, with situations, well, and then also it really hasn't changed. Looking at it, I think it's just more dire. Is we really look for businesses who, are at a threshold of like, do we grow and expand, or do we make an effort to, save ourselves and retell our story because it's not working currently. And those are the ones we feel like we have the most impact on, and we have that strong relationship that really matters. Are people at that dilemma and that situation. People who are investing for the first time, or have had like a really bad experience, and want to improve it. But when they come to us with this ambiguous thing of like, hey, this is our business, our service, our brand, and we want to grow, or we want to do this. And so what our job is, and what we love, the type of work, is for us to be involved in retelling that story, both in what is the right story, getting to know them and their service, and telling the right story, and telling the right story to their customers, to their audiences, helping them do that visually, and then also being responsible of rolling that out and implementing it into their internal operation materials, whether it's their templates, documents, to celebrating it with their uniforms and wall graphics, environmental, to updating all their marketing stuff and putting out a brand rollout. Those are the ideal great stuff, ones that we really feel like, hey, we're your partner and we're really making a difference. And right now, with who knows what the state is going to be like post COVID-19,
Right.
I feel like everyone's really going to need someone that's really going to be invested in helping them out, not someone that's going to be like, hey, yeah, I'll do this one thing for you, but the rest is on your own. We really want to be there to see them through, you know, whatever the mess we're going to be in.
Right.
And you know, they can contact us at remoremodesign.com. That's Remo design. My personal email is Remo at Remo design. That's three Remos. But yeah, that's how you can contact us, see our work. And I think if you look at our case studies or our projects, you'll see that they're all very comprehensive and they're really about, you know, helping them from the beginning to the end.
Oh, they're awesome. I've looked at them. No, your work
You've been involved in a handful of them as
is
well.
excellent. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for taking this time today. And I think you shared some good information.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to talk with you. Catch
Awesome.
up.